Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Meredith Phillips. I'm a writer, reader, and bunny mama. So you've got your story idea and you have an outline or maybe just some notes or maybe none of those things, but you're now ready to sit down and write your first draft. This is going to be the final part in my mini series on getting from your idea to your first draft. So let's talk about first drafts. The first draft is actually my favorite part of the writing process. I have so much fun just diving into the story and going for it without any pressure from anything really. But there are some things you need to do before you get started to make sure that you can really sit down and concentrate and do your best work in this first draft. So let's get ready to write our first draft. I actually am gonna go change real quick. I'm in this kind of formal shirt with pearls. Like, I don't need this to write my first draft. I've got on skinny jeans, which are cute, but also not as comfortable to write in as my paint covered jeans. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna just change into a t-shirt, get a little more comfortable, and then we can get to writing. All right, much better. I'm in my NaNoWriMo t-shirt from last year, which is perfect for needing to write. I've got on my oldest pair of jeans that are super comfortable and they've got paint splashes on them, but I don't care because I'm gonna get ready to write my first draft of this novel. So let's go. I have, let's see, my computer is all ready to go back here. I've got my notes and my outline and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? Actually, hold on just a second. I'm gonna grab a candle. I love lighting a candle while I'm starting to write. It just makes everything cozy and smell good. So hold on, it's just right over there. I'm gonna grab it real quick. Okay, I've got my favorite candle. It's the Yankee Candle Pumpkin Spice. So let me just light it so we can get that pumpkin spice zhuzh going up in here. Oh yeah. Smelling like fall in the middle of August. Well, it's August 1st, but anyway. Okay, candle is going. It looks great. I'm gonna go ahead and start, I guess, except, oh, I'm actually gonna go grab a nice hot beverage. If you have never written with like a hot cup of tea or a cup of coffee or even one of those hot chocolate mixes, it just, it really makes things feel special. So I'm gonna go grab a cup of something hot and I will be right back. Oh my gosh, look at how cute this mug is. I have a nice cup of coffee and so I am ready to go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm here at my writing desk. I've got my computer, I've got my candle, I've got my hot beverage. Okay, so we are like totally set to get started on this first draft. So the next thing that I'm gonna want to do is find some aesthetic music, okay? Because you can't write in silence. Like, don't even try doing that, it's a mess. Head on over to YouTube, pull up your favorite playlist on Spotify, grab whatever you need to, but find some cool music to listen to. Okay, so I'm also subscribed to Antiques Roadshow because I love Antiques Roadshow and they just posted a new video, so I'm gonna watch that real quick. It's like 2 minutes long. It'll be fine. So I'm gonna watch that real quick and then I'm gonna get started finding some music to listen to. Oh my gosh, that cat's so cute. Aww. Oh, this video said it had some like cool music to go with it, so I was just checking, but it was just a cat video. So, I'll find some music to listen to for our first draft. Okay, candle, check. Hot drink, check. Draft pulled up, check. I've got everything I need. I've got my music ready to go. But are you noticing the aesthetic goals going on this desk right now? I need a picture for Instagram. Hold on a second. Okay, so in all seriousness, you do not need any of that stuff. You do need the computer, probably, unless you're handwriting it, but you don't need a candle, you don't need the hot drink, you don't need any of those other distractions. One or two of those things, if you can pull it together real quick, that's fine, but if it's taking you more than 5 minutes to sit down and get started, it probably means you're procrastinating. So the first step of your first draft is to sit down in the chair, open your computer to a document for writing, not pulling up YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or whatever else. Put all that kind of stuff aside and get to writing. Our phones can also be a big distraction if we've got people calling us or texting us, or we're getting notifications that somebody liked our Instagram post or whatever else. If you need to put that on the other side of the room, put it on silent or something like that, do it, because you're gonna be interrupted if you allow yourself to be interrupted. So remove the stuff that is going to interrupt you. One of the things that is difficult to remove is the internet, because if you're using your computer, it's right there. You could just double click on that icon and pull up an internet browser. So if it helps you to actually turn off your Wi-Fi on your computer, do that. There are other programs too that will basically shut down any other thing that is running on your computer so that all you can see is the screen with your draft going. I'm pretty sure Word and Scrivener also have that type of feature where you can put it on like a do not distract mode or something like that. I'll look and I'll put it in the description, directions for those if you're interested, but there are ways to block out other things that could potentially distract you while you're trying to write. So aside from worrying over distractions and trying to put those aside, the first draft really is my favorite part of the writing process. To me, there is just total freedom within the first draft because it is not going to be perfect. You have to know that and believe that going in. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be close to perfect. It's probably not even going to be very good, but that's okay. Terry Pratchett, one of his famous quotes, is saying that the first draft is telling yourself the story. And that's true. You start writing and it kind of sometimes goes places that you weren't expecting. It might deviate from your outline. It might add to your outline. Just go with it. To me, the first draft is about your mindset and being flexible. Your only goal at this point should be to get the words on the paper so that you can go back later and fix it up. Don't worry if they are a mess or if you're all over the place. It really doesn't matter at this stage in the writing process. The other thing to keep in mind as part of that mindset as you're going into this on a daily basis when you sit down to write is that the first 10 or 15 minutes generally, at least for me, maybe it's different for you, but for me, and I do know this is true for other people too, that first 10 or 15 minutes is rough. You're trying to get into the scene, you're trying to get back into the characters' heads, and it is just difficult. So if you're feeling stuck and you just feel like you can't get on a roll, if it's in that first 10 or 15 minutes, try really hard to push past that. Just keep going, keep writing, even if the stuff you're writing is all over the place and you know it's junk, it's fine. Just keep working. The other aspect to that sort of open and flexible mindset that you need to have as you're writing is to be open to finding what works best for you. There are tons of videos, there are tons of books, there are tons of resources out there that will tell you how to write a first draft or how to write at all. And they're all gonna give slightly different advice, and all of that advice is gonna work differently for different people. Some people are gonna really cling to one way, other people are gonna hop around and do different things for each of the drafts that they create. Pay attention to what feels natural and good for you as you're writing, and that's your process. Your process is gonna look different from everybody else's, and it's supposed to. We're all individual people with different brains that are wired different ways, and different methods are gonna work different for us. So don't worry if you've seen your favorite author talking about how they draft. That's awesome for them, and you can certainly try that way out. But if you just cannot get into that method, whatever it might be, move on to something else. The other tip I have for you to really get you in the right mindset as you start to write is to decide ahead of time that you're not going to be sharing this with anyone else, at least for the time being. Maybe you're the type of person that likes to post snippets and things like that on Instagram or Twitter, and if you're comfortable with that, go ahead. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that in my mind. But if you're the type of person that is sitting there sort of agonizing as you write, like, oh my gosh, what if someone reads this? It's so bad. Well, just don't put that pressure on yourself that somebody has to read it. Nobody has to read it unless you give it to them to read. Make sure you're keeping that in mind as well if that's the type of thing that you're going to be nervous or anxious about as you're trying to write. There shouldn't be any pressure at this point about sharing your work. I I have a couple really general tips that have helped me as I've been first drafting over the last several years. Again, these are the types of tips that work for me. If you want to try them out, go for it. If you try them and you're like, that was a terrible idea, then don't do it again. It might help you, it might not, but here are my tips for your first draft. The first tip is to just skip a scene if you're not really sure what it should be. Sometimes I've had scenes in mind, or I know that I need to have some kind of scene where this is the outcome, and I don't really know what that scene is gonna be yet, so just skip it. You can come back to it. Skip over that, pretend like something has happened to get that end result that you were needing, and then keep writing. Don't get stuck sitting on one scene for days and days or weeks. Move past it. The other tip that's sort of related to this is don't worry too much about proper names for people or places within your story. I tend to fall within the sort of two extremes. There are some people who they're writing, and as soon as they come to a new character, or the characters are going to a restaurant or a new place or something like that, they know the name of it immediately. Other people are going to go on baby name websites. They're going to go to name generators. They're going to go and look on Google Maps to find names of various restaurants in Paris or wherever their story is taking place. If you are struggling to find a name as you're writing, do not pause for some extended period of time to go research baby names on the internet, okay? Don't do that. Just put in brackets, you know, main character name. Or I've done stuff too, like there was one story where I needed the name for a forest and I couldn't think of one as I was writing, so I just capitalized forest and put forest in the story, and I just kept going. And I could go back later and fill in the name of this forest. The next tip I have for you is to make notes to yourself about things you want to change or revise after you're done with the draft. Now this is one place where a lot of people do different things. Some people are adamant that you've got to write the entire first draft all in one go, do not go back and edit, and just get the whole thing done. Other people will write half of it and they'll go back and edit and revise. Some people will do things where they write 20 or 30,000 words or a certain number of pages, and then they'll go back and revise that section before they keep going. Other people are really obsessive about it and they'll revise things after like 5 or 10 pages. So again, this is sort of an area where you've got to make it work for you, but I would suggest, especially if you're first getting started, don't worry too much about trying to go back and edit things as you go. I would say go ahead and try to finish the whole story, but even if you're the type of person who loves just writing out the whole story regardless of what kind of mess it's becoming, as you write, you're gonna have ideas for how you want to change things that you've already written. So instead of going back and trying to fix it all as you're also still trying to write the story, just jot down notes, pull up a separate document, and put in the things that you know need to be changed when you go back at the end and start the revision process. That's what works for me. Again, this is an area where a lot of people do different things, so give it a try. If it doesn't work for you, try something else. The other big thing with first drafting that a lot of people get caught up on is word count. Now, especially during NaNoWriMo, the whole challenge is about reaching a certain word count. I really like that challenge. It's fun for me. I enjoy it. Other people, it does not work for them and they hate it. Some people really don't want that word count pressure that you've got to get a certain amount of words every single day. I would maybe try a week following your word count and a week following the time you are spending on the project. Some people, that word count, that giant number of words that they set for themselves to get to every day, it's too much pressure. And writing shouldn't be about that, especially at this point in the game. So if you give word counts a try and it just seems like it's way too overbearing for you, give yourself an amount of time every day that you're going to sit down and work on the project. If you give yourself, 30 minutes a day or an hour a day to sit down and write, make sure that you're actually spending that whole period of time doing writing. Don't spend the first 5 minutes getting your candle and changing clothes and the whole thing. That's a waste. Make sure that whatever the time you set for yourself, you're actually spending that whole amount of time on your writing. I would choose one of these, again, this is just me, you can do something different, but I would suggest choosing either having a time goal for each day or each week maybe, especially if you know you're not going to be able to write every single day. So either choosing a time or a word count goal for each day or each week, because choosing those kinds of really small goals, you know, writing a draft, a book draft is a big project. You need to break it into chunks so that it's going to be feasible for you on a daily basis. But choosing some sort of daily or weekly goal for yourself can really help keep you accountable as well. The last tip I have for you is a tip I found somewhere. I don't remember where it was. I'll try to look it up again and put it in the description if there's somebody in particular who has said this. But the tip is to finish your writing time in the middle of a scene. Don't try to finish a scene every single day, because if you are in the middle of a scene, it's way easier the next day to come in and sit down and pick right back up where you were going. If you end a scene and you start the next day at the beginning of a new scene, it can be hard to kind of get it going and get back into the mood of the whole piece. It doesn't always work out, you know, sometimes you end up at the end of a scene and you've got your words for the day or you're at your time limit, but if you can sort of finagle it so that you are ending your writing time for one day in the middle of a scene, that can really help you out the next day. So that's all I got for you today on first drafting. There are a ton of tips, like I said, about how to do a first draft, but I really think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to you and what works best, and whatever that works best thing is should result in a finished draft. Finished draft. If you're not finishing a draft, it means you need to change something in your process. So if you have any first draft techniques or tips that you want to share, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. I love first drafting, but I'm always open to hearing new things about how to change my process. If you've run into problems writing a first draft and you need some help, let us know too, and maybe we can help you out. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, click the subscribe button. I post videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. You can also find me over on Instagram at Meredith Phillips Writes. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Whew, okay. Whoa. No, wait. What?